Hello everyone, welcome to Cabin Fever Crochet with me, Helene, for today's tutorial part 2, finishing up our Sundowner sun hat. And I came up with a couple of new ways to create cinch-tie cords and wear even on a child size hat if you like, and want to be able to really secure that on your head, how you can bring the self cinch-tie cord down through the inside on each side, and then you can just tie it around their neck. And then also I have an idea, and I'll explain that as we go along, on how you can make more of a grown-up looking version using a different type of cord and even perhaps a bead to get that real sun hat look where you get the cinch tie underneath your chin. Or you can simply have it as shown in the purpley and blue hat, where you can just have the cinch tie going around and inside the band. So there's several ways that you can work that and adjust that as well. It is a little bit chilly today, but I want to be outside, get some sunshine. I have my supplies and I am ready for sun hat weather with my beachy inspired sweatshirt underneath. But real quickly, I do want to go over and just show you the written pattern. Everything is really laid out, separated. I do a little bit wider spacing. I highlight things in bold so you can see the repeat sections within the pattern. I go over the head sizes and all the different measurements, and it is in both standard and metric. And then I break up the pattern into different sections. So we start with the cat portion, the band, the brim, and then the finishing round. And then I also include several photos for the special diagonal cross stitch, and that way you know exactly where your placement is on each. I printed this out in black and white. Of course, it's in color if you would like to print it out there. Okay, well, I hope you are excited as I am to get this finished, and then let's go ahead and get started. Picking back up where we left off on part 1, the end of our 4th round of the cross stitch pattern, and as mentioned, this is where you can add in or take out one round of the cross stitch if you like or need to, depending on the height of your head. And as mentioned, the hat is not supposed to fit completely flush and flat on your head like a beanie, so you will have just a little bit slight raised portion between the top of your head and your hat. So the bottom, like if you want to measure from the top of the crown down to the bottom of your hat, either try it on your head, or just to give yourself an idea, you can measure your own head from the top of your crown to just a little over an inch above maybe the top of your forehead, and that's right about 2.5 centimeters. Now we're going to be working the band, and just to recap, if you're working the ladies average to extra large size, then go down to your eye 5.5 millimeter hook for the band and the brim. Okay? If you're working a ladies small to the youth teen, that was worked in the eye 5.5 millimeter throughout the entire hat. If you're working the toddler child size, then you stick with the J 6 millimeter going into the band also, and then you just switch to the eye 5.5 millimeter for the brim only. Okay, hope you have that down. All right, so I am working an adult size cap, so I will be going down normally to the eye 5.5 millimeter, but because I'm working these two strands are two different number 3 weights, but one is much lighter than the other, so I think I'm actually going to stick with the J 6 millimeter hook for the band and then go down for the brim. So you do have an option there to customize a little bit if you find that you think your hat might be a little bit too snug going down a hook size for the band. You certainly can stick with the larger J hook for this portion that we're going to do. That's up to you. And then now if you're going to switch colors, this is the time to do it, and I am going to show you how I kind of mix and match with mine. So we're going to do first a single crochet round, and you can just do one color for the entire, it's going to be one single crochet round, double crochet, single crochet. So you can do it in the same color you've been working in. You can do it in one color for the entire band or two, and I'm going to do that in two different colors. So here I am at the end of round 4. I have completed my last cross stitch, and remember this stitch, the last of the round, is spoken for. 2 goes to the beginning of the cross stitch as we started. Remember, because we worked to the right. Okay, so now I'm going to pull out last double crochet. So I'm going to begin my double crochet as usual and pull through the first 2 and then stop. And you can go ahead if you want and cut your yarn if you don't want to have to fiddle with keeping the different balls untangled as we carry up the yarn. And that also depends if you don't mind having just a small section where the yarn gets carried up or not. That's another option. But if you don't want to have a whole bunch of extra ends to sew in, then you can work it this way if you like. Okay, so first I'm going to start with the color I'm going to keep, which is this multicolored. I'm going to just wrap it over my hook from back to front like a yarn over, and then anchor it a little bit with my thumb, and then I'm going to bring with the tail end behind me, the working yarn in front, my new yarn. I'm going to pull the 2 through, and that completes the last portion of our double crochet. Leave a tail. If it's too long, you can just pull it back out a little bit. Okay, and then now take my new yarn and the existing yarn that I was keeping, and then we're just going to go right into the first stitch. You can slip stitch if you like, the regular way into the first stitch if that's what you've been doing, or you can go back to front, bring the yarn over if you've been working it this way, and then pull that through. So every one, we are just going to go right back in that very same first stitch, and it is small, just make sure you fit it in there and not to your stitch on the left, and begin your single crochet. And if you're cutting your yarn, you can do that, and because you do have to keep all of these different yarns separated out, so then keep them untangled. If you want to carry it up, then you can bring your yarn over top of your yarns you're working with. Okay, hold it there for a second and finish your single crochet, and then now you can just put it to the back again. It's out of the way, but it's carried up, and that it is coming through the center, see, of your single crochet, just like the rest of your yarn. All right, but set it to the back, and then just go ahead and place one single crochet in every stitch around, and make sure you don't skip any. So that's the next, oops, stitch to the left. Make sure I have both my yarn. Okay, and it's easy, it's just one single crochet all the way around, but I just wanted to show you the way that I connect and how I carry up my yarn. So if that's something you want to try and haven't done it that way before, then now you see one technique for that. Alright, so go ahead, do 1 single crochet in every double crochet of your cross stitch all the way around, and I will see you back at the end. Okay, here I am at the end of the first round of the band, and so here's my very last stitch. And to change colors again, and yes, you will have to bring your yarn snug. I have not tied the two ends together at the beginning of the round, but you can do that. I just do a little square knot, right over left, left over right. Sometimes I don't cinch that real tight yet unless I know that it's looking the way I want it to with the different colors. Okay, so just like we did initially, now we're just beginning a single crochet. So you pull up your loop and stop, and then I'm going to drop this rust colored yarn, bring that to the back, and then I'm going to keep that multi-colored yarn in. And by the way, these yarns that I'm changing into the rust and this cream, this is the Lion brand 24/7 mercerized cotton yarn. Alright, so just like I did before, I'm going to bring the yarn I'm keeping like a yarn over my hook. I'm going to take the new yarn, tail in the back, bring that over. Okay. You have to have takes a little extra coordination there, and then just bring those two strands through to finish your stitch. Okay, have enough tail with the new yarn. Then we're going to take these new colors, and then again either insert your hook as usual into that beginning single crochet, and because we did not slip stitch, it will be a little bit tight, or go from back to front. And then if you're doing it the regular way, then you would just chain up 3 like you have been. Okay, and I'm going from back to front and bringing my strands through like I have been. Alright, and then I'm going to go back into that same very first stitch and then work my alternate double crochet. But to bring the yarn up, you go ahead, pull your yarn through like you are beginning the single crochet, because you have the 2 singles, remember, to equal that alternate. Right, and then I'm going to carry up the yarn. So if you're working with the 2 strands, you're carrying up the 2 that you set aside. This is the strand I'm carrying up from the last round of the band, the single crochet. And here's my original strand in the body of the hat that I will be going back to for the brim. So I'm going to carry these 2 up. Okay. Make sure your tails stay in back, and then you finish that single crochet. Now set them to the back again for a sec. Go through the front left loops, pull your yarn up to finish that alternate double, and then now again bring the 2 strands you're carrying up, bring them over top just like you did of the 2 strands you're working with. Now complete that second half of your alternate double crochet, and now put them to the back, and they are up to the top of the height of the double crochets. So now as you come around from this round, they'll be right where they need to be in line to reconnect for the last round of the band. So make sure those you are not working with are out of the way, and then just go ahead and place 1 regular double crochet in each single crochet all the way around, and again maintaining the same stitch count we did in the body of the hat, which would be 54 stitches for all the lady sizes and 45 for the child. Okay, I will see you back around. Now, however, because I'm just the way I'm set up here, I'm not really positioned where I can set my yarn and spread it out like it needs to be. So actually, I am going to cut my original yarn and then just have a couple extra ends and then go back to it. But I am bringing up this yarn for the last round. But I just wanted to show you how that I would do it if I were to carry up all the yarns and just continue from one round to the next to the next. And here we are at the end of round 2, our double crochet round of the band. I have 2 stitches left, and I wanted to show these to you because the last one, since we did not chain 1 and we slip stitched, I did at least from behind. It's a little bit tight. This last stitch can almost appear like a slip stitch, so I want you to be sure not to accidentally skip that. So you can see if you follow that line down from the top of the stitch, it does connect down to the previous round of that double crochet there. Okay, so with 2 stitches left, finish my second to last double crochet. Now, because I am carrying up this rust colored yarn again for my last round of the band, as we did the first single crochet round, I'm going to begin the double crochet when I pull through 2 and stop. Now, instead of dropping this light colored yarn, I'm going to go ahead and cut that, since I'm not going to use it anymore, at least at this time. Okay, put that behind, and then now that rust colored yarn that I did carry up, I'm just going to yarn over with both the strand I did have and the new strand and bring those through to complete my last portion of the double crochet. And then now you can either slip stitch to your beginning double crochet, it's right here if you like, to the front, or go from back to front. Since I want to continue being consistent throughout, however you would like to work that is fine. Okay, bring your yarn through, and then just like we did with that first single crochet round, do not chain 1, and then everyone just go ahead and work back into that same beginning stitch and place 1 single crochet, and that just avoids having a seam and also extra thickness with the single and double crochet stitches that we did not have in the previous rounds, and that way you get a really nice smooth transition without extra bulk. Okay, and now just like you did on the first round, place 1 single crochet in each double crochet now all the way around, and I will see you back at the end of round 3, our final band round, and then we'll begin the brim. And now at the end of our 3rd and final round of the band, and I really like how these colors are coming out. It's becomes almost kind of a neutral and a semi-solid. You have some color and depth and interest. Now I'm going to go back to this original color with that multicolor. And remember, I cut mine at the beginning, but I'm still going to bring it through to change the colors now. Alright, so again, start the first portion of your single crochet. Take the yarn you're going to continue working with, bring it over top of your hook like a yarn over. I secure it with my thumb, new yarn, tail to the back, bring the yarn over and pull the 2 loops through. That completes the second portion of the single crochet, and now sets us up for the new color. And remember, everyone, you're going to switch now to I 5.5 millimeter hook. Set this one aside so you don't accidentally grab that. All right, then now, since I'm finished with the rust color, I'm cutting my yarn. Done with that. Can take the new yarn that you brought in and tie those two tail ends, but make sure they are cinched down nice and snugly first without over tightening. And now we are going to be working in one continuous round, so grab your stitch marker, your row counter. All right, I'm going to tell you the differences as we go along for the lady sizes versus the child size. And now working into the very first stitch, into the front loop only, slip stitch, and then do not chain one, but go ahead and work 2 single crochets into the first stitch, front loop only, which is the loop facing you, closest to you, and make sure you go through both strands of yarn. All right, so place 2 single crochets, and you want these to be snug down, not over tight, but definitely not loose, because the brim needs the tightness to create the shape and the structure. All right, so for the rest of this round, we are going to be working into each stitch the front loops only, this round only. Okay, so for the lady sizes, we are then going to place 1 single crochet into the front loop of each of the next 5 stitches. Child size, you will work 1 into each of the next 4. That's the only difference. All right. Adult, 1 single crochet to the front loop of each of the next 5. Child size, that would be 4. Okay, and for everyone, 2 single crochets into the front loop of the next. And this is your repeat sequence all the way around. Adult sizes, 1 single crochet into each of the next 5. Child, each of the next 4. And this is your repeat all the way around. But hang on for a sec. Okay, there's my 5. Okay, 2 into the next, 1 in each of the next 5, 2 in the next, 1 in each of the next 5. Child size, again, you'll be doing 4, with the exception that when you come back around at the end, the child size, you're going to have 1 extra single crochet at the end. So in the very last group, you will place 1 in each of the last 5. Okay, hope that makes sense. And your numbers would be, for the lady size, you will have 63 single crochets. Child size, you will have 55. And because we are working into the front loops only, and especially with the extra thickness of 2 strands, that will tend to stretch your stitches out even a little bit more. So what I do when I insert my hook, I bring my thumb up, just in one motion, and place it at the base of my stitches to anchor that a little bit. You see, I bring it down at the bottom, and then as I work my stitch, I bring it up, and that helps to keep the stitches from getting too stretched out. And that is just for this round only. So if you want to take a little more time with this round, it will help. And you can see already by working into the front loop how it curves this round forward. So that way it helps your brim to stay popped up too. Then it helps the shape with that as well. And then you have less material fabric on your skin, your face during the warmer months. Back around at the end of round 1 of our brim with 1 stitch left. Don't accidentally miss that last stitch. Okay, into the front loop. You can double check your count just to be sure. Take your stitch marker out for just a sec. And now moving on to round 2. Okay, and we're going to be working directly into the very first single crochet. So make sure you're going into where you had your stitch marker. No slip stitch now. We're just going to work directly in one continuous round through both loops. All right, so everyone place 2 single crochets in the first. Okay, get your stitch marker. Make sure you put it back in the first single crochet at the beginning of each round. And now the sequence for the ladies' sizes, you will be placing 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 single crochets. Child size, you'll have 1 in each of the next 5. Okay? Okay, everyone, 2 single crochets in the next. Ladies, 1 in each of the next 6. Child sizes, 1 in each of the next 5. And that is your repeat all the way around. 2 single crochets in the next. Adult sizes, 1 in each of the next 6. Child, 1 in each of the next 5, all the way around. And the child size, as always, you will have 1 extra stitch. Instead of 5 at the end, you will place 1 in each of the last 6. Stitch count, 72 single crochets for the ladies' sizes, 64 single crochets for the child size, and I will see you back around. Well, I'm back around at the end of round 2. Unfortunately, my camera was not. Somehow it got bumped and completely out of frame for rounds 3 and 4, but no worries, they're very easy, just a continued repetition of what we did for rounds 1 and 2, and I'm going to explain just what to do. Okay, so beginning with round 3, ladies' size, you will place 2 single crochets in the first, 1 single crochet in each of the next 7. Your repeat then would be 2 single crochets in the next, 1 in each of the next 7, all the way around, for a total stitch count at the end of round 3, 81 single crochets. For the child size, 2 in the first, 1 in each of the next 6. Your repeat, 2 single crochets in the next, 1 in each of the next 6 all the way around, with the same exception for that extra stitch. As you come around at the end, you will have 1 single crochet in each of the last 7. Your stitch count is 73 single crochets. Then for round 4, no increases this time. Everyone will just place 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, maintaining the same stitch count you had for round 3. So to recap that again, at the end of round 4, ladies will have 81 single crochets, child size 73. I will meet you back in frame at the beginning of round 5. Now if you wind up with 1 extra single crochet somewhere within the brim as you go along, don't even worry about that. It's not going to throw your work off one way or the other. If you wind up 1 single crochet short, then you can fit an extra one in somewhere. You just double up as you do with an increase, but preferably not next to another increased stitch. So now we're going to be moving on to rounds 5 and 6. So we'll have 1 increase round followed by an all single crochet round. Now we're going to place every one 2 single crochets in the first. As always, hopefully you are remembering to place your stitch marker back in that first. Alright, so 2 in the first. Now the sequence for round 5. Ladies size, you will place 1 single crochet in each of the next 8 stitches, 2 in the next, 1 in each of the next 8, all the way around. Child size, your sequence will be 1 in each of the next 7, 2 in the next 7, all the way around. With the last stitches, you will have 1 in each of the last 8. The stitch count for the ladies, 90 single crochet. Child size, 82 single crochets, and that is for round 5. Okay, round 6, that's 1 single crochet all the way around for everyone, maintaining the same stitch count as 90 single crochet or 82. Okay, and I will see you back at the end of round 6. Okay. Here we are back together again at last at the end of round 6, and your hat should start looking like somewhat like this, taking on this shape, a little bit wavy, curled. Don't worry about that. When we get to the end, it's all going to straighten out nicely, along with that finishing edge, which gives it a nice finishing smooth touch. So now round 7, it's going to be an increase round, so we're going to, let's see, I'll tell you round 7 and 8 for this one. Okay, so pay attention, class, all right, because it's going to change up a little bit here, just for the child's size anyway. I got a funny little loop again. Okay, last single crochet, and now for the increase, as usual, every one begins with 2 single crochets in the first, and if you've guessed it, ladies size is now going to be 1 single crochet in each of the next 9, 2 in the next, 1 in each of the next 9, all the way around. Child size, you will do 2 in the first, okay, 1 in each of the next 8, 2 in the next, 1 in each of the next 8. When you come around to the end, you will place 1 in each of the next 9. All right, and round 8, every one 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So your stitch count for rows 7 and 8, the ladies, will be 99 single crochets. Child size is 91 single crochets. And the child size, you may repeat round 8, 1 single crochet all the way around, 1 or 2 more times if you want the brim a little bit wider, and that will depend on the size of the child you're making it for. Then you skip the rest and then meet us at round 12, the finishing round, and everyone's going to work that together. And I will see those who are making the lady sizes at the end of round 8. For the child size, I will see you at round 12. And as a reminder, the gauge of the width of the child's brim is approximately 2.5 inches. After round 8, you can, again, if you add another round or 2, that's fine. Just not too many extras, because it's a single crochet with no more increases. If you keep adding, the brim of your hat is going to curl and curl and curl, and it will lose the ability to have a flexible but structured brim that you can adjust in the ways that I showed you. And now for the last few rounds of the lady's hat. When we get there, we'll just recap the brim width on that. All right, so now we are on round 9. And this is our last increase. Yay! Okay, so just start as usual. This is the ladies only now. 2 single crochets in the first, stitch marker back in, and 1 single crochet in each of the next 10. That's the sequence. 2 in the next, 1 in each of the next 10, all the way around. 108 single crochets, and now rounds 10 and 11, 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So that's 9, 10, and 11. Round 9 again to recap, last repeat, 2 in the first, 1 in each of the next 10, followed by 2 single crochet rounds. However, if you wind up using, say, 2 number 3s like I am and 1 is lighter, you may want to add 1 more round only of the single crochets just to get that width. And we are going for, in the ladies, approximately 3.5 inches wide on the brim. Okay, and that is at the end of round 11, about 3.5 inches wide. There, this portion here is round 3, okay, of the band. So we're going to start with round 1 of the brim. Don't stretch it. Now I'm not placing mine flat. If you place yours flat, it'll be easier. But you see, there we are, right at about 3.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to see you at the end of round 11. Keep in mind, with that final finishing round, it's going to smooth and straighten out that edge a little bit. And I'm just going to show you a couple of just easy, quick ways of working that self-cinch, just decorative and functional tie if you like to, and how to then pull it through the inside of the hat, which I talked about in part 1. I've completed the rest of my single crochet rounds at the end, and I wound up on this one adding in 1 extra to get to that width, and it did work out real well. Okay, so there we have it, 3.5 inches wide, 9 centimeters. Now for our final finishing round, which if you just worked rounds 10, 11, it'll be 12, my case 13, and remove the stitch marker, every one. We are going to go ahead and slip stitch through both loops of the first 2 single crochets where we began. Okay, slip stitch 1, and this is just to help even up the edge a little bit, because when you're working in one continuous round, if you notice, you do get a bit of a height difference from the beginning and the last stitch. So this helps to just bring it up a little bit, and then the final round will even it up all the rest of the way. Now I'm going to begin the slip stitch in that second beginning single crochet. Just insert the hook. I'm going to drop the yarn I'm not going to be working with anymore because I'm changing colors, and I went ahead and I cut that. Since this is the last round, I'm taking that multicolor. I'm going to wrap it over, back to front over the hook like we did before as a yarn over. Take my second color, tail in the back, the yarn over your hook, and bring the 2 strands through and through the loop on your hook to complete that slip stitch. Make sure you have enough tail to weave in. Okay, you can always slide it up or down, more or less, whatever you need. Now, this is very easy. We are going to be working in the front loops again, all the way around, slip stitch. All the way around, and I don't need my stitch marker at this point because I changed yarn colors. You can see that, but just to be sure, I'm going to pop that in anyway. And if you're working in one color, definitely do that, working in the same colors you did before. Okay, and evenly not loose and not tight. If you over tighten, you're going to pull in your stitches and create it to be misshapen and cause it to curl too much. Okay, so take your time on this last finishing round, and in the front loops only, making sure you go through both strands and slip stitch. And if you need to pull back, say one of your stitches, oh, maybe is too loose, okay, go ahead and do that. Pull back a stitch or two, just gently retighten that, and continue on with slip stitch all the way around into the front loop, and it's going to reinforce your edge. Flatten it out a little bit, and I don't know if you can just tell the difference. Once you get going all the way around, you will see how smooth it makes your edge. All right, and it flattens it a little and really helps it to maintain a uniform and even shape all the way around. And I really like that how it pops the edge and gives you a really nice piping on that. Really nice finish. Okay, so go ahead all the way around. I'll meet you back there and just kind of give you a quick little overview on how to do an invisible join on that, so you do not have a visible connection where you fasten off and weave in your ends. Okay, see you back in a minute. I'm back around along the finishing edge here, finishing round. I have one last stitch to go. Make sure you get that last one. Don't accidentally miss it. Okay. Now we're going to slip stitch into the front loop only of the first beginning 2 stitches where you worked into both loops. And that will do the final evening up along your top edge. Okay, there's one and the last. Okay, now pull up your loop a little bit. I always like to leave a little extra so I can sew those in real nice and clean. Pull your yarn up and then get your yarn needle. I don't want a real large big fat one because that's going to stretch out the stitches, and I want them to be as flush as possible. Oops. And then that's my last stitch. Bring that over and I go through up underneath the front loop and the back loop and bring it through. Okay, that creates a nice smooth edge there. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of a join, has to be somewhere along the way. If you feel that this edge where you worked through both is a little bit too thick along that edge, you can pull your loop back up and pull out one or both if you like, and then you can see how that looks by just joining into the first stitch if you want. But this is how I am going to leave mine. Okay, then come to the back, and then I just start weaving it in, and somewhere along the way where it's as invisible as possible, I'm going to make a little bit of a knot. You can see that hopefully. I don't bring that knot down flush all the way to the base of my hat, but it is secure, so then when I go to weave it, that portion back in, then I can come back up somewhere, thicker area. Yeah, I'll bring it down there. And sometimes you just have to look around and see where that you think that knot is going to best fit. There we go. And it goes in between, underneath all those thicknesses of stitches, and then it doesn't show on either side. And then you can just continue burying that in somewhere along the way. A few more one way, a couple more another, and then you're done. Okay, and I'll finish all my ends. And then see here, you can look, see this is what it looks like on the inside, carrying my yarn. So that was the join, my opinion. Once these ends are all in, it's pretty clean. And have enough ends here to work with so that you can take a look at the very beginning stitches. I'm going to turn it around where we started with those 2 single crochet in the front loop. Depending on the type of yarn, say like a more denser of mercerized cotton like the Lion Brand 24/7 can make a bigger gap pulling that stitch open. And this is where the nice thing about changing colors is you can go to that little spot. You're going to weave in your ends anyway, and if you gave yourself a long enough tail, you can use that to cinch that little gap in just a touch by just going through the stitch next to it, below it, and up and around just a little bit as you're closing it up anyway. Okay, and that's all it's going to take. I think I'm going to go up the side here, back through these stitches. I always want to make sure it's not going to show through on the other side. You see, and there we go, then back through, up and around. It's late and we have shadows. It's after dark now, so hopefully you can see enough to give you a pretty good idea. And then here I am just back from where I started, and then this is where I'll just bury that last bit, and then that's where I'll cut it off there, and then bring it back to the front so you can see how that closed up that beginning just a little bit. Okay, and then yeah, just weave in all the rest of your ends as usual. Okay, so now I want to show you how I do a couple of cords. If you want to make a self cinch tie, you can use, there's just such a variety of different types of yarn you can use, and as mentioned in part 1, I do have a standalone video for that if you want something in depth. And just let you know, it's one of my earlier videos, and it's, in my opinion, just too overly long, probably a little too much information there, but you can sift through it, fast forward, go to the parts you like. If you want to get down to the nitty-gritty, then go to part 2, and I'll show you exactly what I do in different ways that you can tie it and so forth. Okay, so I have a few different things that I pulled out here, and I'll show you how to weave it through so it's evenly distributed around, and that you come back to a point, and then how to do your tie or your cord so it stays put, bypassing the 2 ends. And then also show you how a different way you can put on a ribbon or cord or whatever, and that bring it through to the inside. And there are different options with that too. You can use a little bead, how some like straw sun hats, and I'll show you that. I don't have a bead with me right now, but I'm just going to give you the idea of it, and then more in depth is that other tutorial. But you can do like a bow, and I'll show you how to weave in the bow, but just while I have this out, okay, for example, while we're talking about the bead, take the 2 ends, and then you take a large whole bead where it'll fit both ends of, whether, say, you just are you want to do an I-cord. If you knit, you can knit an I-cord, you can crochet an I-cord, or you can just simply make a really long chain And then I'll show you if you make a long chain or have an end, which end to feed it through. So that way it gives you, if you need more length at the end, you can just add on to that as you go. But you want the large whole bead wide enough, to be able to fit both ends and to be able to slide on easily enough, but not so loose it's going to slide back down the other end. Put this through the larger needle, both ends at the same time. Okay, so you have your large blunt tip, large eye needle on this end, and then you just run the needle with the two ends through the bead, slide the bead all the way up to the base of the band of your hat where we fed it through. And then that becomes a self-cinch-tie cord that if your hat winds up a little bit large, as I mentioned in part 1, this is the way that you can customize it to fit different head circumferences. Or if you're making it for someone and you really don't know their head size, then go with the larger, I suggest, unless you know they're a really, really petite person. And that way it will fit them. You know, you can cinch tie it on a windy day too. And also for, say, a smaller child, as mentioned in part 1, if you're making it for a toddler but putting all this into it, oh gee, you know, I'd really like it to fit them for another year or two as they grow, or same for, say, the youth teen size, and that can fit them as they grow up also, then that's another reason you can go on the larger end of that, and then you can cinch tie it when their head's smaller, and then as they grow you can just use it as decorative or functional, again on a windy day. So if you do put a bead, now you don't have to, you can just do like I did and tie a bow. Depending on the type of material you're using, if you're doing a chain, then you will definitely have to knot both ends. You can just use the simple knot like you do with your beginning slip knot and do another knot at the other end so they're both the same. Or for something like this, this is yarn, it's considered a tape yarn. This is still available. It's by Hooked, H-O-O-O-K-E-D. It has an extra O in it. I've seen that on Joann.com. It's on Lovecrafts, various different sites. This is 100% cotton. You can use this for a variety of things, rugs, bags, and so forth, baskets. So it's not just simply for making cords, but I have a fair amount of it. So, and that's what I use it for a lot. But because the ends do tend to fray, you could get some type of fabric glue or something to seal the ends, or just make a little knot at the bottom. You can do that too. So either way, whether you are using a chain or a type of ribbon, cord, whatever your choice is, you can just do simply a cinch tie with a bead, without a bow, end bead, whatever you like. I have some hats and examples in that video where I put 2 metal beads, one on each end, and then I knotted it, and then I weaved and fed the knot in and buried it up inside the bead. And that's another really nice look hanging down too, and it secures it, makes it really decorative and pretty. You'll see that also in that video. You can use just pretty little lace ribbon if you like, and because this is wider, I mean, you don't have to get one as wide as that, but if that's what you have and you want to use it, yes, it is wider than the band, but you could twist it. That might make an interesting look, or fold it in half and then feed it through, and then have the wide part coming down. That would look pretty, but you will have to do something to seal the end of that. Also, I saw this on Amazon, and there's a real pretty one. This is 100% cotton tape ribbon. But I did find one that I want to get that's a beautiful soft heathered gray in the center with a little bit, I think it's off-white, just a little bit on each edge. And that's lovely, and that's so neutral. It would go with any color that you have. You decide where you want your back to be. I think a good place for that would be where the join is. Whatever you're using. If you're doing a long chain and you're going to have a tail, then that's going to be really easy to just feed through. You can use your yarn needle for that. So you have your tail end. For the chain, that's what you're going to start feeding with, is your tail end. You can put the tail end through that large eye blunt tip needle, and you can use that to weave in and out. Makes it real easy. You don't have to pick through with your fingers, accidentally pull your yarn as you're trying to work through and snag that. And then it's your working end that you're chaining from that you're going to leave out. Okay, you feed through the tail end. So that way, as you go around, if you need it to be longer, then you grab the working end and you just add more chains and feed it through, add more chains as you go. And then I'll show you when you come around, you just want to make sure you have it long enough, and I'll show you how I do that. So for something like this, depending on what I'm using, you can either use an extra long safety pin or a shorter one. I don't know, like this, I may not want to poke a real large hole through it. And you can always cut the tip off a little bit if you want, if it does start to fray. I'm just going to feed a little pin. Oops! Almost poked it through my finger. There, no wonder. That was kind of hard to go through, you think? And then I'll show you too, I'm going to grab the child's hat, so that way, like if you want to do flowers and a ribbon, and I'll just give you a tip on feeding it around so that it doesn't interfere with your flowers don't interfere with the functionality of the ribbon. So we worked in multiples of 9, including for the band, maintaining our original number of 54. The child's, you'll have one extra, but that's okay. The 45, that will work with that. Okay, so 6 goes into 9 evenly, and half of 6 is 3, so that's going to go into the multiples of 9 evenly too. All right, and so does 2. You could do either like weave in and out of 2 or 3, because you need a little bit shorter spaces to go around to be able for it to cinch up and draw in evenly. So I'm going to work in the 3s. Here's my center, and I'm going to have 1 on either side, so there's 1, 2, 3. There's the center, and you can mark it with a stitch marker if you want. There's the 1 to the left, 1 to the right. I'm going to start in between the stitch to the left and the next stitch. I'm going to go right down in there, so I'm going to go down. You want to start in a downward motion. So the end you're feeding through is up. That's going to be important as we come around. So you go down and then up. There's 3. Then you go 1, 2, across 3 and down, and under 3 and up. Okay, all the way around. Okay, so again, across 3 and down, under 3 and up, all the way around. And my suggestion is to feed a little bit through as you go. It's much easier and helps keep your ribbon or your yarn from getting twisted, especially when working with like that tape yarn or a cord. So as you feed it through, make sure either of those are nice and flat and as you go, and you may have to twist it and manipulate that a little bit, but that's just part of weaving this through. And then when you come around, I will meet you back by the center 3, so leave those 3 open, and I'll show you what we do to bypass and have both ends coming through the center. Okay, I have woven in my cord, and before you cut your yarn, a couple things. First, you want to make sure as you go to that your hat is opened up all the way and hasn't gotten cinched in at all from your ribbon, because once you cut it, if it's been cinched in and then you go to put on your head and you pull it back out, it's going to draw in the ribbon from what you have left and could wind up being too short. And then decide if you're going to do a bow or not also, and make sure that I go ahead, I do the bow, but we're going to use a little bit more yarn first, but just to give myself kind of an idea, okay? Say how big I want my bow to be. Just gives me an idea. Say, okay, that's good. Maybe that's about how much if I want a bow. Right, I have like all this extra left over, and maybe I want my bow to hit just about to the bottom of my hat. So I'm going to, it tells me, okay, then I need to pull this back about, say, that much. All right, or maybe a little bit less. I'd rather have more to work with than not enough, in case when I cut, I don't cut it even, the angle's not right how I want it to be, and that way I can just trim it up a little bit more and not cut myself short. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. And now I'm going to cut the side that I've been working from. I'm feeding from my spool. I cut those pretty evenly. And then now we have the center 3. So I'm going to go over the top of the double crochet to the right, go down underneath the center and through. Okay. And now on the other side, I'm going to do the same, the opposite direction, but this time I'm going to show you what I do a little bit different. I start out the same, stitch on the left, now go down, up under, and then I'm going to go under the ribbon as well. And that really helps to lock it in. Go under the ribbon when you cross over, okay? And that's why I call they bypass each other, kind of forming an X going across. And that way it won't come apart or fall out. And then this, if you're using the Cinch-Tie Cord, works really well for, say, you know, like I said, the yarn or a cotton ribbon or that cotton tape yarn. And this is when now you would use your yarn needle and you would feed the bead through and slide it up both strands up to the top, and then somewhere down at the bottom here, then you could make a knot, and you want that knot to be thick enough so that your bead doesn't slide off the end either, and then you lose it and come rolling down. So if you're doing a child's hat, and I kind of thought of that after I already put the flowers on, but that's okay because I can work with that. All right, this goes pretty well, so I'm going to use this. All right, so this is going to be done in a little bit different way. Now you just lay the hat flat, pinch like 2 stitches on the sides, on each side, and that's where you're going to start. So maybe with the child size you might want to go in 2s, and you're going to start on the side instead. And then go just like we did with the first, down and up, Okay, cross 2 down, under 2 up. Across 2 down, under 2 up. Okay, so first do this all the way around. Here I'm up to my flower, and if you have to, as you go along, kind of smooth out your yarn a little bit, your cord, make sure it's not twisted. Okay, so there's 2, and then I'm going to go under the flower, and that's going to be more than 2. That's okay. Yeah, I think I'll just come up under there. I'm going to go right next to the flower. I would do the cord first and then put the flower on afterwards, and then you can sew your flower on top of the stitches where the cord is underneath. See how the cord comes up underneath there, and the cord comes up underneath this larger flower. Just make sure you don't sew them onto your cord, because then that'll prevent the cord from sliding. Okay, and then just go ahead and finish up and down 2, all the way back to the beginning. Okay, all the way back to where you started. On this method, where you want to have a tie that comes through both sides to go under the chin, I would go with a ribbon or a ribbon type of yarn. I really don't recommend a cord for this because it's going to wind up just being too thick. Alright, so with the child's hat, remember we have 1 extra. That's okay. So you're on this side. Now we're going to go down 1, come back up the other, okay, and now go back down into between the stitches from where we started, and then come back up again. And see, the only thing with this method is that you're going to have 2 thicknesses on one side, 1 thickness on the other. And so what I'm going to do now, you're going to have 2 sides. You're going to feed through again, and now you're just going to go halfway this time, halfway only. Just by folding it flat, you can tell where that is. Okay, that's where I started. See, that was pretty good. I eyeballed that, right? So you can see that's one side there. There's the other side, and then now here's the stitch you just came out of. Now you're just going to take the yarn, go back behind, and then down and through to the inside. So this secures it. It wraps it around. You're using that stitch as a post anchor there. Okay, and then now you can cut the other end and kind of do the same. Give an idea. You've got the child's chin. Gonna tie it, make a little bow. Make sure you have plenty of yarn there at the end. You definitely don't want to come up short on that. Okay, and then now you can do the same on this side as you did your other side. So I hope you like that. I think it's going to serve well and be pretty functional. Oh, I was dreaming about this all night long one night, figuring out a way how to feed this through and have it look nice. And there you've got the double thickness, but with this tape yarn, it really lays smooth and flat. It doesn't add really any extra bulk. And then now you just do the same here. When you come back around to the side that you began, after you've cut your ribbon or cord, make sure you wrap it around the double crochet stitch as your anchoring post before you feed it through to the inside, just like we did on the other side, which I forgot to do here. Okay, and there you go. Now you just have a little tie on both sides, where then you can just tie. There's their little chin down there, and make a little bow. And another idea that I have, if you want a chin strap for an adult size, then you could do the same, say, with a microfiber suede cord. It's washable, doesn't fray, it lasts a really long time. They come in a whole bunch of different colors, everything from neutrals and brights and pastels, like olive green, purple, yellow, whatever you can imagine. So you can really coordinate, mix and match contrasting colors, and then you would feed it through the same way. And for the adult, you could also get a nice large hole bead, get a wood bead, and just make sure the inside is smooth and isn't splintered or anything. If you have some type of round file, those can work well to just run that up on the inside and smooth it out. But you can get bags of them relatively inexpensive. I've seen them at Walmart and other hobby stores. Or you could use a pretty ceramic type of bead, and then just as I described before, then you just you put the two strands through, run it up, and then you've got a nice cinch-tie cord that is more for an adult, and that's coming on the inside, which I find helpful for when I am hanging out at the lake and the wind can really pick up in the afternoon there, so I still get the sun coverage and something that's going to anchor to my chin as well. You just want to tie a knot down towards the bottom because you want enough slack to be able to uncinch, slide that bead all the way down and be able to have enough width to then take it off your head, or if you want to hang it off your back sometimes you can. So then you would just knot it down at the bottom, and I could just take both ends, wrap them around and just make a little knot like that. A lot of my summer straw hats, a lot. I have like two. Just a little simple tie like that. And that is thick enough so your bead doesn't slide off. And there you go. Okay, well that is a wrap for this one. Wow. Wound up being a lot longer than I anticipated, but I wanted to get it all in 2 parts and show you everything that I wanted to do, so this could be as versatile and functional and cute and fun as possible for a variety of head sizes. Okay, well, take care everyone, and I will see you again soon. Okay, bye for now, and thanks again for being here, watching and making.